You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I wanted to acknowledge something right off the bat today. A couple days ago, a YouTuber named Comicstorian, real name Ben Potter, died in a solo car accident on June 8th. He flipped over a few times and ended up dying from blunt force trauma. Now, Ben was really, really good at what he did. And what he did is he would take important comic book stories, long runs of comic books, and condense them down into something a little more palatable, a little easier to digest. But he did it in an incredibly entertaining way. He was very good at what he did. And obviously, because he had over 2 million followers. He was 40 years old, leaves behind a wife and I believe kids. And a lot of the industry is pretty stunned by his passing because it, just out of the blue. So, and this was a big enough story that some of the major trades picked it up. So it just shows that, he really made an impact. He really got people's attention. So my condolences to his family, his friends, and his fans. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is, June 13th. Yeah, we'll go with June 13th. It is Thursday, and we are going to talk about the Superman movie, and with really the main question in mind, is it getting too crowded? But I want to say hey to Ed, to Triple B, and to Jay. We've got JD working the boards. And we're going to dive right in. I got a bunch of news tidbits for you guys. The Boys just debuted last night today, but it's been announced that the end is near. The series, which got a 5th season renewal already, even though season 4 just started up today, but season 5 has already been renewed. And Eric Kripke originally said that he saw this going about 5 seasons, but started hemming and hawing on that once he got to the 5th season. Well, according to Amazon Prime and to Kripke, this is it. He said season 5 will be the final season. Always my plan. I just had to be cagey till I got the final okay from Vought. Thrilled to bring the story to a gory, epic, moist climax. Watch season 4 because the end has begun. So if you are a fan of The Boys, this season and next is all you're going to get. So let's see what else we got. Zack Snyder announced that his Rebel Moon movies are getting director's cuts and new titles. Rebel Moon Chapter 1 will now be called Chalice of Blood, and Rebel Moon Part 2 will be called Curse of Forgiveness. Now, both are happening on Netflix on August 2nd. So I haven't watched the second one yet. I watched the first one. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. It felt very much like a bunch of components that we had seen before put together into a conglomeration. Now, of course, the original one, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, debuted back in December 15th. And the second one was called Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, and that came out in April 19th to be specific. But and between the two of them, they brought in about 95 million global viewers, according to Netflix charts. Snyder disputes that, saying it's closer to 150 million. But it is fascinating to me that a guy who was pretty much handed the keys to the kingdom and told, make what you want, put 2 movies out, and then put the director's cut out. Why didn't he just do the director's cut in the first place? He's the director. Anybody? No? Okay. Ed says we have a basement. Oh, you got storms come in. Be safe, Ed. Hopefully Gen V gets some more seasons. I believe they're doing a second season. We'll have to see. Season 4 of The Boys dropped today. So if my internet goes down, my evening is set. There you go. All right. We're going to move on to Paul Giamatti is joining the cast of the upcoming Paramount Plus original series, Star Trek Starfleet Academy. He's going to be a recurring role. He will play the season 1 villain, a man with an ominous past connected to one of our cadets. Now, he, of course, is joining Holly Hunter, who will be the star of the series as the captain and chancellor of the Starfleet Academy. This whole series will begin production later this summer. But yeah, Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti in a Star Trek TV series. That's kind of a hard one to process. Oh, hey, Lorena, good to see you. Japanese animator and director Kenji, I'm going to try this last name, Kamiyama, made his Annecy debut. Annecy is this big animation festival over in France. Debut in the company of Andy Serkis on Tuesday, where he did a 20-minute preview of the upcoming anime feature, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. Now, it was also announced there, this is where it gets really interesting, is that Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh were executive producers on the feature. Now, these are the two that pretty much made the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies happen. So the fact that they are tied to this and will be involved in the upcoming Gollum movie, stuff like that, that gives me good hope that these are going to be really good. Because Peter Jackson really seems to get it. I mean, if Peter Jackson's not involved, the only other person I could think of would be Stephen Colbert to make sure these things are good. But so Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh are involved in the War of the Rohirrim. Okay, moving on. I know this cat, and I'm really glad for him. But Richard Dominguez's comic series, El Gato Negro, is moving forward over at Prime and has added Sarah Jones from For All Mankind and Oscar nominee Adriana Barraza from Blue Beetle as series regulars in the series coming up called El Gato. Now, also in the cast is Diego Bonita and Lorenzo Izzo. And El Gato follows Frank Guerrera, who will be played by Bonita, who returns home to Mexico after the death of his father and finds himself neck deep in a nest of vipers. His estranged family who are vying for control of his father's business empire, but Frank's grief is interrupted when he learns his only inheritance, a seemingly worthless parcel of land on the border, sits atop the lair of a famous costume vigilante, his father, El Gato. Now Frank is in the crosshairs. To survive, he'll have to solve mysteries decades in the making and unravel the truth about his father's connection to a modern-day terror plot. It's pretty straightforward to me. I've checked out these books before. They're really cool. So congrats to Richard Dominguez, and I look forward to seeing this one. Okay, moving on to Peacemaker news. Yes, we have some news on Peacemaker Season 2, and that James Gunn has announced on Instagram that Saturday Night Live alum Tim Meadows will be joining the second season of the DC Max series, opposite John Cena. Now, Meadows is going to play an Argus agent named Langston Fleury. In addition, Superbad filmmaker Greg Mottola will be helming a few of the episodes. So what Gunn's going to be doing some, Mottola is going to be doing some. Don't know if anybody else is getting a crack at it, but there's at least two good directors there. And Frank Grillo will be reprising his role of Rick Flag Sr., the character he's going to be voicing in Creature Commandos. So got a lot of really good people coming into this project. Lorena says Elgato title alone piqued my interest. Yep. By the way, for anybody who doesn't speak Spanish or know what El Gato is, it means the cat. Or the full comic title was El Gato Negro, which is the black cat. All right. If you've been waiting for Blade from Marvel Studios, I got some bad news. That's right. Director Jan Demange, I think that's how you pronounce it, has exited Marvel Studios' long-anticipated reboot of Blade. Now, he's been attached to it since 2019 when he joined Marvel chief Kevin Feige down in San Diego when they did the rollout thing. Now, Mahershala Ali is still attached to Star. And they're saying that it's supposed to be amicable. At least they did when the announcement that he was leaving. But there's been some rumors that there was open fighting between Demange and other people working on the project. So, no idea. But, this is not the first director to leave. Bassam Tariq was also on the project, and he bailed, and writer strikes have slowed it down. But Marvel veteran Eric Pearson is writing the Blade script, and it's still slated to come out in November of 2025. So we call that development hell in the industry. Yes, we do. Actually, what's funny is it's been a few years since we did it, but I was with a group of actors that did this thing called development hell. And what we would do is we would sit in a comic book store, the Comic Bug in Manhattan Beach, to be specific, and we would do a table read in front of a live audience of comic book scripts that never got made. Sam Hames' The Watchmen and the Justice League. We did James Cameron's Spider-Man, stuff like that. So we would take these scripts, the Kevin Smith Superman movie. So we would take these scripts that never got made, and we would, divvy up the parts and sit there and we had music and we had noise or sound effects and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. So, but we did that a few times. I think they're somewhere on the internet, but I've never been able to find them. So I'll have to track those down. I got to play fun characters like Deadshot. I got to play Deadshot at one point. So, all right, let's see. Moving on. This is kind of interesting. We found out about a Marvel series through another announcement. In the announcement about Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, that he's going to be starring in a new Netflix series based on the Man on Fire franchise, the one with Denzel Washington. Well, Deadline dropped some new information in the middle of it, saying that his next project coming up will be Marvel Studios' Wonder Man, and they described it as a 10-episode series for Disney+. Now, to my knowledge, that's the longest upcoming series. Maybe Daredevil's going to be longer. I know it was originally 20-some-odd episodes, but they ended up splitting it over 2 seasons. But 10 episodes is currently the longest that I know of for a Marvel series. And if you don't know who Abdul-Mateen II is, he played Black Manta in Aquaman, and he played Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen TV series. You can see that he likes getting into these big franchises. So, okay, and we're going to wrap it up with two, not one, two Game of Thrones related news stories. First up, starting with the once dead spin-off series 10,000 Ships, turns out it's being revived, and it's being given to Ebony Booth. She recently won a Pulitzer Prize for her play Primary Truth, and she's supposed to be heading this up now. The spinoff originally was based on, I don't know if it still is, but Queen Nymeria. And in Game of Thrones, there's this encyclopedia they find in a Westeros library, and there's this little blurb about Queen Nymeria, and they're basing this entire series off of that little blurb from the encyclopedia. Now, the second bit of news has to do with the fact that the first Game of Thrones spinoff, House of Dragon, has been renewed for a third season. Yep, the second season kicks off on Sunday, but they went ahead and renewed it for a third season. This series is set 200 years prior to the events of Game of Thrones and tells the history of House Targaryen and this was all in Martin's book, George R.R. Martin's book, Fire and Blood. So, and a lot of this news, at least the Ebony Booth news, comes from George R.R. Martin himself. So, all right, guys, that's the news. When we come back, we're going to talk about Superman and all of the casting. And is it just getting too crowded? We'll be right back.
You love comic books. You collect comic books. But even if you own a rare, expensive issue, it's still a copy. How would you like to own a piece of comic book history? The actual art pages the comics were made from? Oh no, you say. That's too expensive. Regular people can't afford that stuff. Can they? Nick Ferrucci says yes. Join the founder of Dynamite Entertainment for the original art experience on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. Incredible art at almost unbelievable prices. Does he have some high-dollar pieces for the high rollers? Sure, but Nick always makes sure to find amazing pieces priced for the fledgling collector. You can collect original comic art. The original art experience. Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Part of the experience. There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Yeah, remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons. If you would, I would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's start off talking about the Superman movie. James Gunn has said that he doesn't want to do an origin story, but he also didn't want to continue the current continuity. So it's kind of a mess right now. That's the big problem, is that some of the characters are going to stick around and others are getting changed. We're keeping John Cena as Peacemaker. We're getting rid of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. We're keeping, can't think of the woman's name now, plays Amanda Waller, but we're getting rid of Henry Cavill. So it's a little confusing to see who's staying. Viola Davis, thank you. I wanted to say Angela Bassett, and I knew I was wrong. So it's really difficult to know exactly what they're doing. Now, we do know when this new stuff's going to start. James Gunn has said recently that Creature Commandos will debut in December of this year. And Creature Commandos is the start of the new DCU. And that the characters from there, if an actor voices a character there, they will appear in live action. If it's going to be in live action, then it'll be the same actor. That's why Frank Grillo, who voices Rick Flag Sr. in the Creature Commandos, is going to be Rick Flag Sr. in Peacemaker. Though I have a really weird time trying to figure out how Frank Grillo is old enough to be the father of the guy that played Rick Flag Jr. They seem somewhat close in age. Anyway, so we know it's kicking off in December. What we don't know, like I said, is what stuff is being kept, what isn't from the DCEU, and how that's all going to be explained, if it's going to be explained. I mean, are they just going to cover their ears, close their eyes, and hope no one asks? But putting that aside for now, let's talk about the Superman movie. Like I said, we know it's going to be Superman really kind of trying to figure out the difference between his, merging his Kryptonian side and how he was raised on Earth. But what's interesting to me is that Jor-El and Lara have not been cast. We haven't seen anything about them. And there's been no confirmation of any other Kryptonians being in the movie. So Ed Storm is here on tablet now. Like I said, be safe, Ed. All right, so let's talk about who is in the movie. Now, of course, we got David Corenswet playing Clark Kent / Superman. And we've got Rachel Brosnahan playing Lois Lane. Now, you have to have those two. You do. For a Superman movie, you need Superman and Lois. No matter what you do, you need Superman and Lois. Bad guys wise. Well, we know we're getting Lex Luthor played by Nicholas Hoult. And in a weird move, they're bringing the sidekicks that Lex Luthor had in the original Superman movie back for this. Eve Teschmacher, who will be played by Sarah Sampaio, and Otis, played by Terrence Rosemore. Otis was played by Ned Beatty back then, off of Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor. It was kind of a Joel Kinnaman is 44, Frank Grillo is 59. Teen dad, maybe? Yeah. See, it could be. Or maybe there's a time travel thing in there, but we'll find out. All right, but there's another potential villain that has been talked about, but we're not confirmed having him in this movie. And that would be Sean Gunn playing Maxwell Lord. Deadline and a bunch of other sites reported that Gunn was going to be playing Maxwell Lord. And Gunn is also voicing G.I. Robot, and he's going to be he's Weasel as well from the Suicide Squad. So he's kind of all over the place. But this is the first time you'd see his face. But again, he hasn't been confirmed for the movie, but he's already been kind of confirmed. So what other project are they putting Maxwell Lord in? Peacemaker or this? And I'm thinking it's got to be this. May not be a big part, maybe a small part. All right. Also, when you do a Superman movie, you want to have Ma and Pa Kent, Jonathan and Martha. And here we get Pruitt Taylor Vince as Jonathan and Neva Howell as Martha. All right. Then you want to mention that Superman's got a job, that Clark Kent is a reporter at the Daily Planet. So you need a Jimmy Olsen, and we got one, Skylar Gisondo. And you need a Perry White, and we got one of those in Wendell Pierce. But they've also cast Cat Grant, who will be Michaela Hoover, Steve Lombard, played by Beck Bennett, and Ron Troop, played by Christopher McDonald. Now, I understand that you want to have Jimmy and Perry, because those are pretty big characters. But when you start pulling in the gossip columnist, the sports reporter, and another reporter that are all from the comics, and you start adding them to the story, well, you kind of have to give them something. You know, that they have to have at least some screen time. And it's not like these are just throwaway actors. Beck Bennett is a Saturday Night Live alum. Hey, Slipknot. Wendell Pierce is from Suits and the Jack Ryan series and has done a lot of great stuff. And you don't just throw him in there for one or two lines. So it seems like we're going to get at least some decent time in the Daily Planet. Got to remember to say Daily Planet, not Daily Bugle. Bit of a difference there. Okay, so you've got all these characters so far. What's that? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 characters plus a possible 13th if you count Maxwell Lord. Well, on top of all that, you have extra heroes that are being introduced. Kendra Saunders, Hawkgirl, is being played by Isabel Merced. Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, being played by Nathan Fillion. Rex Mason, Metamorpho, played by Anthony Kerrigan. Michael Holt, or Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie Gathiga. And, of course, Angela Spica, the engineer, played by Maria Gabrielle de Faria. Now, these aren't just other characters. You know, you can get away with saying, oh, that's Cat Grant. She's the gossip columnist. And you don't really have to go more in depth into that. But when you put Metamorpho on the screen and they go, what the hell's a Metamorpho? You've got to kind of explain who he is, what his power is. You got to give the viewer something. Would Al Pacino be good for Jor-El? Ooh. Al Pacino was Jor-El. I keep telling them the planet's going to blow up. And they keep saying, no, they pull me back in. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Guy Gardner is a Green Lantern. You got to explain what the hell a Green Lantern is. First thing, there's a lot of people who have not seen the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. And there's a good number of people who have seen it, but have literally blocked it from their memories. So, you know, there's two right there. Green Lantern, Metamorpho. Hawkgirl, yeah, she flies. She's got fake wings. Mr. Terrific, third smartest man in the DC universe. The engineer. How do you explain the engineer? You've got to give these guys some time, unless what they're going to do is whatever the big threat is, it's just going to blow up the this team, and now we know this things are serious. Let's see. Jay says, my question keeps moving. My question is, how many characters were added before anyone started thinking there might be too many characters in the movie? Slip laughs. Ed says, Superman and Spider-Man crossover at the Bugle. I go to theater for that. There you go. And JD says, I remember Hal Jordan accidentally killing a couple of guys with a green fist. Yep. Yeah. It changes the whole term for fisting. But you've got all of those people. So we're up at 12, 13, 18 people, 17, 18 people. And then you also want to throw in the fact that they announced that Millie Alcock is going to be playing Kara Zor-El, Supergirl. And while she's supposed to be doing it in her own movie, that hasn't even begun production yet. And everybody says that she's going to appear in something before her movie. So what better place would be than in Superman? All right. So now you've got to kind of explain that. And maybe she's the connection to Krypton that makes him start wondering. I don't know. But then, again, you don't have Jor-El or Laura Lorvan. If you're going to explore his Kryptonian side, you kind of need to bring his parents in a little, don't you? See, that's a lot of characters. You're getting up to like 20. And this is, we don't know who we don't know about yet. I mean, where's Michael Rooker? Michael Rooker shows up in all of his movies. I don't think he's going to be Jor-El. Will he be Bibbo? Will he be Dan Turpin? Yes, I'm going deep cuts on Superman here, but you get the idea. It just seems like this is really starting to get crowded. You should ask Dan about the first script he read. I thought the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern was pretty good. Definitely worth a watch. Okay, I think those two are connected. Slip, I got to read the first draft of the Green Lantern script before it got changed to what we ended up seeing on the screen. And there was an ending that was so incredibly cringe. They literally had the ring power ran out. He couldn't get to the battery to recharge it. He was falling out of the sky with Carol. And he recharged the ring from their love. The power of love. It's a curious thing. That was so bad. I'm glad they changed it. Rooker will be DC's recurring cameo. I like that. Slip says, I don't think Millie Alcock looks right for Supergirl. Helen Slater is still the best. I'm not going to argue with that. But then again, most people are looking at her based on her House of Dragon. And those are the worst. I mean, hands down, the worst bleach blonde wigs I've ever seen. Everybody looks bad in those wigs. So, yeah. Okay. So let's look at the other Superman movies and see what we've got compared to what they did. Now, you got to start with Superman, the movie, 1978. Now, I loved the original Superman TV series and the animated shows, but for the sake of this conversation, we're not talking about them and we're not talking about sequels. We're just going to focus on the first ones. Okay? And in 1978, Richard Donner took a script from Mario Puzo, of all people. Yes, the guy who wrote The Godfather was the one they tapped to write Superman, and made what is arguably the most loved superhero movie of all time. Now, I say arguably because I have my issues with the campiness in the film, but it was the 70s, so I got to give it a pass. Everything was kind of campy in the 70s. Now, as this would be the first glimpse that some people had of Superman, they went ahead and did an origin story like you would. And they introduced us to Krypton and Jor-El. And they even set up a sequel by showing Zod and Non and Ursa being sent off into the negative zone. Like they're packaging them up and going, and we'll save you for number 2. Triple B says, I bought the Humble Bundle and the first PDF I downloaded was Karma. Oh, thank you, Triple B. Jay says, I loved Karma. By the way, a little hint that for those of you that like Karma, You'll want to be paying attention in July, as there may be a second one. All right, so sticking with Superman, the movie. Now, we don't get a lot of time with the characters and stuff, with the Kryptonians and stuff, but we get flashbacks to Marlon Brando. But we get enough to kind of know what's going on, that no one's listening to them. And it's a long-running trope that the government doesn't listen to the scientists and everything goes to hell. But we get enough so that when Kal-El lands on Earth and being found by the Kents, and then a glimpse of him growing up, we get all the little tidbits we need to put it together. And then we get Perry White and Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane. And then on the villain side, we get Lex and Otis and Eve Tessmacher. Miss Tessmacher! And she ends up being crucial to the story. But we get very little background on any of these other characters. Basically, we spend all our time. The movie is successful because it focuses on Superman, whether he's the hero, he's Kal-El, he's Clark Kent. And, you spend a little time with the love interest and his opponent, and then everyone else is kind of just superficial and plot devices. Now, the other Christopher Reeves movies, the three sequels, don't really apply here. Like I said, but once you've established the lead, Clark, Lois, and Lex, the following movies can then go into more details and spend time on Zod and building the family and stuff like that. But if you think about it, that's the basic pattern. A successful first superhero movies focuses on the hero, his love interest, and the family or friends, and the villain. Everyone else is just there to move the story along. This is what Iron Man did. This is what Captain America did. This is what Spider-Man did. This is what Blue Beetle did. Anytime there's a movie that's somewhat successful, that's what they do. They focus on that conglomeration. And the ones that don't work well for a first movie are the ones that go elsewhere, that don't follow that pattern. So moving on to Superman Returns in 2006, this is kind of a tough one because it doesn't really, even though it's a first movie and supposed to be a new franchise, it's not. It's basically Bryan Singer writing a love letter to Richard Donner, along with Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris, who wrote the script. They pretty much just went, look, all we're going to do is we're going to get Brandon Routh and he's going to act like Christopher Reeve. But we found out recently that Matt Bomer was up for the part 2, and had a 3-picture offer and had it pulled when he was outed, which wouldn't affect it today, but back then it did. Now, Brandon Routh did his best Christopher Reeve. Kevin Spacey basically tried to be Gene Hackman. And they even gave us a new version of Tessmacher in the character of Kitty Kowalski. Now, while this was supposed to be a new movie, it basically was just Superman 3 if you eliminated the sequels and just counted the first movie and then Donner's cut of Superman 2. They weren't even trying to do a first Superman movie here. They're just going on. And what's interesting, though, is they even did the same plot. Lex Luthor in the first Superman movie is doing a real estate scam. He's bought a bunch of property inland and then is going to blow up the coast to make it all beachfront property. What's Kevin Spacey's version of Lex Luthor's plan? To use the terraforming stuff from Krypton to make new land on Earth that he owns. Real estate scams. That's literally what the best they came up with twice for Lex Luthor. Okay, moving on to Man of Steel in 2013. Now, this is coming off The Watchmen in 300, so Zack Snyder was kind of feeling his hopes and was given kind of free rein to do what he wanted. This was also after the success of Christopher Nolan's Batman, so Warner Brothers was like, go forth and make a dark movie. Gene Hackman, my uncle? Well, very cool, Triple B. Now, this was a true reboot, and it kind of went back to the origin story, but he pared it down from what Donner had done. He gave us very little time with the Daily Planet. I mean, Do you guys remember that Lawrence Fishburne was Perry White in these movies? Jimmy Olsen, I think, got killed pretty early on or at some point. Or maybe that was in Batman. I lose track. But Jimmy Olsen's in it for just a minute and you don't even realize he's Jimmy Olsen. There really isn't any real Metropolis supporting cast other than Lois and Perry. And we spend more time on Krypton and we get a better feel for Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe, and Lara. And we get time with Jonathan and Martha Kent. And you get Kevin Costner and Diane Lane. But it was obvious that Snyder wanted to see the two sets of parents. He wanted to see nature versus nurture and explore that whole thing. You know, we don't get Lex Luthor. Instead, we jump right forward into Zod, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of the Marvel playbook. If you think about it, you put your hero up against somebody with the exact same powers and then have them fight. And, you know, that's what they did, was they went, no, we're not doing Lex Luthor. We're going straight to Zod. And we get to learn some about Zod, but none of the other Kryptonians. Did you know there was a Fiora Ul, a Tor-On, a Jax-Ur, a Lor-M, and a Rose-Zar were all named Kryptonians in the movie? I doubt you knew all of those. Man of Steel used a lot of actors from Smallville and used the actor who was Baby Kal-El in Superman 78. Ed says, back upstairs, storm has passed. Cool. Triple B says he loves Man of Steel. You know, I enjoyed Man of Steel. I don't hate it. I have a little issues with it. But overall, I thought it was a good story. You know? All right. So let's look at Superman 2025. Now, we don't know exactly what James Gunn has in mind, but there's a lot of people in the cast. And you have to establish Superman where he is in his life and at that point. Now, Gunn says he's skipping the origin story, so we probably won't get Jor-El or Lara, but if he's trying to merge the two, how is he going to do that? How is he going to have Clark trying to merge those two things if he doesn't know anything about his Kryptonian side? Maybe they'll get cast still. Who knows? Maybe they're just in the end, and that's why we haven't seen them yet. We get Ma and Pa Kent, but like I said earlier, they're not really big actors. I mean, other guys to play Jonathan Kent in the movies are Glenn Ford and Kevin Costner. Pruitt, I don't remember his name now. Pruitt Taylor Vince is, you know, I've seen him in a lot of things. I think he's a good actor, but he's not a Glenn Ford or a Kevin Costner draw. So, again, goes with the now new origin thing, but it looks like we're going to have established Clark Kent already working in the Daily Planet, and we're going to have 5 co-workers plus Lois. Now, again, you don't introduce the sports guy and the gossip columnist unless you're going to spend some time with them at the job. Side note, how cool would it be to have a television series set in the Daily Planet, having them deal with the struggles of print media in the modern day, and having them still trying to cover the news and all this other stuff, and having Clark Kent always disappearing. We never see Clark Kent. We know he works there. He's talked about, but he's always running off or whatever, not where he's supposed to be. So you've got this very serious newsroom show, and there's one character that keeps disappearing. I think that would be fun. Anyway, we also get a new Lex Luthor. And again, they're going with the henchman from Superman the movie. These are not really well-established characters. I mean, they've popped up in the comics, but barely. It seems like they could have gone with Mercy Graves, who was an established henchman or driver for Lex Luthor. Would have made more sense. And then again, the whole Millie Alcock as Supergirl thing, are we going to get that? Is she going to show up? We got the Maxwell Lord thing. He could pop in as, you know, just introduce him. Maybe he's in charge of the team of superheroes and they just haven't said anything about that. But not where he will, you know, I could see both of them being squeezed in here. But man, David Cornsford was in peril, and he does look a lot like Superman, so excited about him. Yeah, no, I've got no problem with the casting. I think the casting has been great. But again, are we just trying to put too much in a movie? But that's not where we're also getting the Green Lantern, the Metamorpho. We're getting 5 extra heroes. And again, dropping a non-hero into a movie is not that bad. I mean, you just name check and go, and then you can get back to them later. But you can't just throw Metamorpho out there without explaining what the hell he is, or a power ring, what it does, or why one girl is completely covered in metal, or why one has wings. These things, audiences want explanations for some of this stuff. And then also, you're bringing an entire team of heroes in, so whatever they're going up against needs to be a big threat. Is Lex the big bad? Does he have powerful allies to justify having a team of heroes? Now, in the image of David Cornsweet in the costume with the big ball of energy thing behind him, is that something Lex made? Do we have a different villain we haven't talked about yet? So, Gunn has said that this is an established universe already, and some of the characters from the previous DCEU are sticking around, but we really don't know how this is going to work overall. Are we getting the same actors, but it's like we're on a parallel Earth? Did the events of Suicide Squad and Peacemaker Season 1 happen or not? Will these other heroes get time in the establishment, or will they be sacrificed early on like Steven Seagal in Executive Decision? If they're just there to ramp up the stakes of the threat, then I can see it working. Because they're like, well, they're all dead, so we really don't need to know about them. But if they're going to be around, you kind of have to explain it. That's going to take some time. I have a lot of faith in James Gunn. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does here. I think he did an amazing job with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and the Suicide Squad, which both had very large casts. But he also ignored a lot of characters too. His Suicide Squad movie had an entire team that got just about wiped out. And then we went on to the other team. So, yes, he had the detachable kid and just a ton of Savant and all these other characters. But we didn't get any time with them. They died like that. So, now but the real question is, will Clark, Lois, and Lex get the time they need to really shine in this movie? And that's the big question. That's what we're going to have to wait and see. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. I got some key collectibles, and then we'll come back, do that, and call it a night. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Arthur, King of the Britons in Monty Python and the Holy Grail was played by a famous Graham? Check out another famous Graham by following our Instagram.
Something is speaking to you.
Buy more comics.
Just at the edge of your perception.
Buy more comics.
Your senses fill with visions of vortices.
360 comics.
Slowly drawing you to one thundering epiphany.
360 comics.
360 Comics!
The universe is telling you to shop with 360 Comics. Joe's got amazing stock from high dollar to $5 books from Silver Age to Modern, CGC, variant covers, and more. 360 Comics every Wednesday at 9 Eastern, part of The Experience. Ask your local comic shop to add Battle Quest comics to your pull list today.
right, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. Remember to stick around. We have What's in the Box. We have the Geek Chat, who'll be giving away a variant comic. And we've got 360 comics tonight. So, is that 360 tonight? Nope, it's SketchUp. SketchUp tonight. And they're doing an ink and draw. So, all right. Hit me with them books there, JD. Okay, what we're doing now is we're going to do the first appearance of some of the characters who are appearing in the movie besides the mains. So, Superman number 7 from 1940 is the first appearance of Perry White, the Daily Planet editor-in-chief. This goes for $8,000 on the high end. Median is $2,000. Low end is $800. Then we get Superman number 13 from 1941. This is the first named appearance of Jimmy Olsen. He had appeared earlier, but just as Office Boy. This is the first time he gets a name. High end on this is $6,600. Median is $1,800. Low end is $660. Now, Adventures of Superman number 424 from 1987. This is the first appearance of Cat Grant, the Daily Planet gossip columnist. And this one's really reasonable. You could probably pick this up. High end on this is only $5. Median's $2. Low end is $1. Be a good time to pick it up in case it goes up because of her appearance. Superman 264 is from 1973. This is the first appearance of the Daily Planet sports reporter, Steve Lombard. That's who Beck Bennett is playing. High end on this is $30. Median is $9. Low end is $3. Adventures of Superman number 480 from 1991. This is the first appearance of Ron Troop, a Daily Planet reporter that ends up having a child with Lana Lang. High end on that, no, not Lana Lang, Lucy Lane, Lois's sister. High end is only $3. Median is $2. Low end is $1. This is another good one to pick up on a hunch. JLA Earth 2, the graphic novel from 2000. This is the first time they put Eve Teschmacher into any DC books. High end on this is $15. Median is $5. Low end is $1. Justice League number 1, the Wahaha version from Giffen and DeMatteis, along with the art by McGuire. This is the first appearance of Maxwell Lord. High end on this is $12. Median is $3. Low end is $1. Adventures of Superman number 428 from 1987. This is the first issue of first appearance of Bibbo Bibowski, and I put him in here because, for God's sakes, Gunn is casting everybody else. We should get a Bibbo as well. High end is $3. Median is $2. Low end is $1. Superman number 4 from 1987. Yes, it's the first appearance of Bloodsport. It's a John Byrne issue, but it's also the first appearance of Captain Maggie Sawyer, the head of the Metropolis Special Crime Unit, who she's got to show up eventually, right? High end on this is $15. Median is $5. Low end is $1. And we have from New Gods number 5 in 1971. This is the first appearance of Dan Turpin, the lieutenant inspector from the Metropolis Special Crimes Unit. He's kind of the gruff cop from Superman comics. He is designed after Jack Kirby, and he was also one of the character Brooklyn in the Newsboy Legion. So he goes all the way back before this, but he's not named Dan Turpin until here. He was Brooklyn before that. So they kind of connected the two characters into one. High end on this, $35. Median's $10. Low end is $4. All right, let me real quick, got a minute or two. We can hit some of the comments that we missed. That love changing the ring all ending sounded absolutely terrible. That's why I typed barf earlier. I kind of typed barf. No, I think I actually barfed when I read it. Yeah, I think I did. And I was at work too. Ed, you won't know about how you feel about it until you watch it. You know what? It's not horrible. And it's also interesting because not only do you get Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, but you get Taika Waititi as his best friend. You get Blake Lively as Carol, who is Ryan Reynolds' wife. You get Mark Strong as Sinestro. You get Michael Clark Duncan as the voice of Kilowog. You got Jeffrey Rush as Tomar Ree. I mean, there's a lot good in that movie, but there's also a lot of bad. The villain needed help. The special effects, the animated suits, it could have been a lot better, but it's not. I mean, sit down on a Saturday afternoon and watch it, and you won't feel that you got ripped off on your time. Superman is awesome. I should read more. I agree. I always have a hard time finding good Superman books that aren't Elseworlds. You know, one of my favorites is For Tomorrow by Brian Azzarello and Jim Lee. That's a really good Superman story. But yeah, there's some good ones out there. But a lot of the ones that people talk about are Elseworlds, like All-Star Superman, stuff like that. And I like the main Superman. I want to read those. If you haven't checked out Superman Unchained, Tripoli, that's another good one. That's I don't remember the writer on that one, but it's Jim Lee again. If you haven't checked, okay, put it on the list. Thanks, Jay. I can't stand Ryan Reynolds, so that's why. Oh, you can't stand Ryan Reynolds? Wow. Always loved guy on the Green Lanterns. Which one is Reynolds? Reynolds plays Hal Jordan. Superman Red Sun is awesome too. Superman Red Sun is awesome, but again, it's an Elseworld. Hal and Superman Red Sun is awesome too. Yeah. Want to make something of it. I love that cover. All right, guys. I think that's everything. Oh, no. There's more going in here. Mark Strong is Sinestro. Yeah. All that, and it was still utterly forgettable. I'll put it on my insomnia night. There you go. That's it. Your insomnia night. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a blast. I will be back next week. Have a good weekend. I won't be doing Pop Go the Raiders on Sunday. It's Father's Day. And my partner, Jim, on that is tied up. So no Pop Go the Raiders. So I will see you guys next week for the news and then a new show on Thursday. Have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day to all of you who are fathers. And I'll see you next time. Stick around for What's in the Box.
Twitch, it's not just what happens when you have too many energy drinks anymore. Check out our content over there, too.